Steve Harvey stepped onto the set of The View that Tuesday morning with his trademark grin, straightening his suit jacket as he settled into the guest chair. The studio audience greeted him with warm applause. Co-hosts Whoopi Goldberg, Sarah Haynes, and Sunny Host welcomed him with genuine excitement. At the far end of the table, however, Joy Behar remained with her arms crossed, her expression unreadable. "Steve Harvey, everyone," Whoopi announced, drawing another round of applause. "We're thrilled to have you here today. Thank you for having me," Steve responded, flashing the $1,000,000 smile that had endeared him to millions. "It's always a pleasure to be here with you ladies." Sarah leaned in, opening the conversation. "Your new book on relationships has been selling like hotcakes. What inspired you to create another guide for couples?" Steve leaned forward, visibly comfortable in his element. "Well, Sarah, after decades of hosting Family Feud and talking with thousands of families, I've learned communication is everything. When couples stop really listening to each other, that's when problems start." "That's beautiful," Sunny chimed in. "The reviews have been amazing." But Joy shifted slightly in her seat, her expression still unreadable. Steve noticed and tried to break the tension with a light chuckle. "Joy, you look like you've got something on your mind." Joy's eyes narrowed. "Steve, I've been reading your book, and I have to ask, don't you think it's a bit hypocritical for someone who's been married 3 times to be giving relationship advice?" The studio went quiet. The other hosts exchanged awkward glances, and for a moment, Steve's smile faltered. "Joy, I think my experiences, both the good and the challenging, actually give me more insight into what works and what doesn't," he said cautiously. "Every relationship teaches us something," Joy pressed on, relentless. "But Steve, you've spoken publicly about your first 2 marriages ending in divorce. How can you sit here and advise others on how to make their marriages last when yours didn't?" Whoopi tried to intervene. "Joy, I think Steve is." "No, let him answer." Joy interrupted. "I think our viewers deserve to know why they should take relationship advice from someone with such a history." Steve's jaw tightened, but he maintained his calm. "Joy, I'm not sure what you're aiming at here. I've been happily married to my wife, Marjorie, for over 15 years. We've built a beautiful blended family, and yes, I've learned from my past mistakes what growth looks like." "Growth?" Joy scoffed. "Or is it just clever marketing? Convenient how your personal struggles turn into best-selling books." Murmurs began rippling through the audience, sensing the rising tension. Sarah looked mortified, and Sunny seemed ready to step in, but Joy was far from finished. "And another thing, Steve, your comedy specials from the 90s, some of that material about women, it feels outdated now. How can we trust that your relationship advice isn't just more of the same old thinking?" Steve slammed down his coffee mug harder than necessary. "Joy, I came here to talk about helping people build stronger relationships, not to be criticized for things I said decades ago as a comedian. Comedy evolves, people evolve, and I believe my record speaks for itself." "Does it though?" Joy shot back. "Because from where I'm sitting, it seems like you're profiting off giving advice about something you've struggled with, and some of your past remarks about women suggest you may not be the ideal person to guide them in love." The other hosts were visibly stunned. Whoopi tried again to steer the conversation back. "Maybe we should focus on the positive reception the book has received." "No, Whoopi," Steve interrupted, his tone firm, edged with frustration. "Joy wants to have this discussion." The room had transformed from a friendly, casual chat into a tense standoff. Steve's usual warmth and humor were being tested against Joy's relentless questioning. He shifted in his chair but remained composed, carefully choosing his words. "I respect the past I've had, Joy, and yes, I've made mistakes. But all of those experiences, the failures and the successes, taught me lessons I now share to help others avoid the same pitfalls." Joy didn't let up. "So your personal failures are now your selling point?" Steve leaned forward, maintaining eye contact. "Not just selling points, Joy. Lessons. Proof that people can grow, change, and build strong, lasting relationships if they're willing to learn. That's what this book is about. Helping people communicate better, understand each other, and not repeat the mistakes I made." There was a pause, the air heavy with tension. Sunny and Sarah exchanged glances, trying to gauge whether to jump in, but Steve carried on. "You asked about my track record, and yes, I've had divorces. But I've also been married over 15 years now. We've built something strong, something that works. That's what experience looks like in real life, not just on paper." Joy shifted slightly, her expression unchanged. "And yet, some might see this as turning personal hardship into profit. How do you respond to that?" Steve's tone softened, though it retained its firmness. "I can't speak for how people perceive it, Joy. I can only speak for the intentions. My goal has always been to help families, couples, and individuals grow and communicate better. If my story, including the mistakes I've made, can teach someone else to avoid heartache or miscommunication, then that's a good thing. That's meaningful. The room remained charged, with Joy clearly unconvinced and Steve holding his ground. It was a rare moment for the usually charismatic host, a situation that tested both patience and composure. Through it all, he navigated the confrontation with careful words and steadfast poise, demonstrating that experience isn't just about success. It's also about handling scrutiny, criticism, and the unexpected challenges that come when one steps into the public eye. By the end of the segment, the tension had not fully dissipated, yet Steve remained collected, turning what could have been an outright disaster into a demonstration of resilience, reflection, and an unwavering commitment to the message he came to share. The audience, still buzzing, had witnessed not just a book discussion, but a vivid lesson in grace under pressure, the kind that only a seasoned entertainer like Steve Harvey could convey. Let's hear it, Joy. You've been trying to tear me down in front of millions, and for what purpose? What exactly is your goal here? Joy leaned back, a smug smile playing on her lips. My goal is truth, Steve. I think the audience deserves to know who they're taking advice from. And honestly, your reaction right now is very revealing. Revealing. Steve's voice rose slightly. You're attacking my character, my marriage, my career, and you expect me to just sit here and smile. That's not happening, not today. Joy waved her hand sarcastically toward him. This is what happens when you ask tough questions. He unravels. Steve shot up from his chair, the legs scraping against the floor. I'm not unraveling, Joy. I'm pointing out your unprofessional conduct. This isn't journalism, it's character assassination. The audience fell silent, some covering their mouths in shock. The co-hosts exchanged uneasy glances, unsure whether to step in or let the tension escalate. Sit down, Steve. Joy commanded. You're making a spectacle of yourself. I am. Steve let out a bitter laugh. Joy, you've spent the last 10 minutes trying to humiliate me on national television, and you think I'm the one embarrassing myself? What's truly embarrassing is an adult woman thinking that intimidation and bullying make good television. Joy's face flushed. Bullying. I'm asking legitimate questions any responsible journalist would ask. If you can't handle that, maybe talk shows aren't for you. Steve's voice grew louder, more forceful. You came into this interview with an attack. You didn't ask about my book, my family, my work, or my philanthropy. You went straight for the jugular. That's not journalism, that's a hit job. Oh, please, Joy said, rolling her eyes. You're overreacting. This is how interviews work. We don't hand out softballs just for you to promote your book. Steve pointed at her, composure finally cracking. Joy, I've done thousands of interviews in my career. I've appeared on every major network, every major show. I can tell the difference between hard questions and personal attacks. You're doing the latter. Whoopi finally spoke up. Maybe we should take a commercial break. No, Steve said firmly. Joy started this, and we're finishing it right here, right now. Joy crossed her arms, leaning back defiantly. Fine, Steve, let's finish. You want to talk about personal attacks? Let's talk about how you've built a career on stereotyping women and now try to present yourself as a relationship expert. The hypocrisy is glaring. Steve's hands clenched at his sides. Joy, you clearly have a personal issue with me. This hostility isn't normal. Did I offend you at some event? Did I hurt your feelings? Because this is starting to feel personal. Don't flatter yourself, Steve. Joy snapped. This isn't personal. It's about accountability. You can't just reinvent yourself and expect people to forget your past. My past. Steve's voice cracked with incredulity. Joy, my past includes growing up homeless, sleeping in my car, working my way from nothing to building a media empire that provides hundreds of jobs. It includes giving millions to charity and mentoring young comedians. And you want to focus on jokes I told decades ago. Joy waved her hand dismissively. Oh, here comes the sob story. Plenty of people overcome adversity without making degrading comments about women along the way. Sarah finally spoke, her voice trembling. Joy, maybe we should step back. Stay out of this, Sarah. Joy cut her off sharply. Steve wants to have this conversation. Steve stepped closer, his voice rising. You know what, Joy, you're right. I do want to have this conversation because I'm tired of people like you thinking you can dismantle someone's entire life's work over some jokes they made decades ago. I've apologized for anything offensive. I've grown. I've evolved. But apparently that's not enough. Joy's eyebrows shot up. What exactly do you mean by people like me? I mean people so unhappy with their own lives that they feel the need to tear down others to feel better about themselves. Steve shot back. You're sitting here on national television trying to humiliate me because it makes you feel significant. The audience gasped audibly, the room charged with tension. Steve's voice remained strong, filled with frustration yet underlined by conviction. I've spent my life building, helping, creating opportunities, and yet all you want to focus on are decades-old mistakes. This isn't about criticism. It's about character assassination masquerading as tough journalism. And I'm not gonna sit quietly while you do it. Joy leaned forward, her expression unyielding. Accountability is everything, Steve. You can't just gloss over the past because you've had some success. People deserve honesty. Honesty, Steve replied, his voice tight with emotion, is also about recognizing growth. It's about understanding that mistakes don't define a person. They shape them. And every success, every charitable act, every mentoring moment I've done comes from those experiences. That's the real story, and it matters. The tension remained palpable, the co-host silent, the audience captivated. Steve's stance was clear. He refused to be shamed for his past while highlighting the resilience and lessons it took to reach where he is today. Every word, every gesture underscored the struggle between accountability and attack, showing a side of public life few ever see, the challenge of defending a lifetime of achievement against relentless scrutiny. Steve's voice softened, but his resolve did not waver. This isn't about deflecting criticism. It's about context, growth, and the real work I've done to make a positive impact. If that's hard for some to acknowledge, so be it. But I will not let this moment be twisted into an assault on my character. The audience watched, some nodding, some wide-eyed, as the confrontation unfolded. It was a rare glimpse of a figure usually known for humor and charm standing firm under pressure, defending not just his accomplishments, but his integrity, his family, and the very values that had carried him through decades of challenges. Joy's face turned a deep crimson. How dare you? You don't know anything about my life. I know enough. Steve shot back, his tone sharp. I know that genuinely happy people don't go out of their way to tear others down. I know that secure individuals don't ambush guests on their own show, and I know that true professionals don't let personal grudges turn an interview into a spectacle. Joy slammed her hand onto the table. Spectacle? You're the one standing up and yelling like a child who didn't get their way. I'm standing because you've been disrespecting me for the past 15 minutes, and I'm not gonna sit here quietly anymore. Steve roared. Do you think that because you're sitting behind that desk you can say whatever you want? Attack my character, my marriage, my career, and expect me to just smile and nod? Whoopi tried to intervene, her voice calm. Everybody, let's just take a breath. No, Whoopi. Steve cut her off, spinning to face her. I appreciate you trying, but I need to set this straight. Joy has been planning this from the moment I walked in. This isn't about asking tough questions. It's about humiliating me on national television. Joy leaned forward, her tone sharp and aggressive. Nobody planned anything, Steve. You're imagining things. I asked legitimate questions about your credibility, and you completely fell apart. This is exactly why people doubt your advice. My credibility. Steve laughed bitterly, the sound harsh. Joy, what credibility? What relationships have you saved? What families have you helped? What real positive impact have you made? All you do is sit behind a desk and tear people down for entertainment. I hold people accountable. Joy shot back. You're not a journalist. Steve exploded. You're a talk show host with an attitude problem. Real journalists ask hard questions with respect. They don't ambush guests and then act shocked when they respond. The studio erupted into chaos. Audience members whispered frantically, some even taking out their phones. The co-hosts looked helpless, frozen between intervening and letting the confrontation play out. Joy now stood, facing Steve across the table. You know your real issue, Steve. You can't handle being challenged by a woman. That's what this is about. Steve's eyes widened in disbelief. Are you serious? Some of the strongest people in my life are women. My wife, my daughters, my mother who raised me. This isn't about your gender. This is about your unprofessional and nasty behavior. Nasty. Joy's voice rose an octave. I'm nasty for asking hard questions. You're nasty for the way you ask them. Steve shot back. Those weren't hard questions. They were accusations. You didn't interview me. You attacked me. And now you're trying to make it about gender because you know you're in the wrong. I'm not wrong. Joy screamed. You came on this show expecting us to fawn over you while you promote your book, and when I asked real questions you couldn't handle it. Real questions. Steve's incredulity was palpable. Your first question called me a hypocrite. The second attacked my past marriages. The third brought up decades-old comedy material. Those aren't questions, they're personal attacks. Sonny finally broke the silence. Maybe we should all just calm down. Don't tell me to calm down. Both Steve and Joy shouted simultaneously, glaring at each other. Steve ran his hands through his hair, muttering, I came here to talk about helping couples communicate better, and instead, I'm being assaulted by someone who clearly has no idea how to have a respectful conversation. Joy pointed an accusing finger at him. You're the one being disrespectful. You started yelling. You made this personal. My God. Joy, you literally started this by questioning my character. How is that not personal? Because it's relevant to what you're selling, she snapped. Fine, Steve threw his hands up. Then ask about it professionally. Don't open an interview by calling me a hypocrite. Don't attack my past marriages, don't humiliate me. Ask questions with respect. I don't owe you respect, Joy said sharply. You earn respect, Steve replied, voice low but menacing. The room fell silent. Even Joy seemed to pause, suddenly realizing she might have overstepped. Steve's chest heaved as he stared at her, his anger palpable. Joy, you just told me, on national television, in front of millions, that I don't deserve basic human respect. And you wonder why I'm upset? I meant professional respect, Joy countered, shifting uneasily. No, Steve said slowly, shaking his head. That's not what you said. You said I don't owe you respect. Period. That tells me everything I need to know about who you really are. The studio hung in eerie silence, Steve's words lingering in the air like a verdict, leaving a palpable tension that few in the audience could ignore. Joy's face had turned ghostly pale, the weight of her words settling in as millions watched live. Yet instead of softening, she doubled down, trying to maintain her edge. Don't twist my words, Steve, she said, though the firmness in her voice had waned. You know what I meant. Steve took a deliberate step back and fixed his gaze toward the camera. Ladies and gentlemen watching at home, he said, his tone steady and deliberate. You just heard Joy Behar say that she doesn't owe me respect. Not professional respect, not courtesy, just respect as a human being. Keep that in mind the next time someone tells you bullying is wrong or asks you to stop being so sensitive. Joy bristled and opened her mouth to respond, but Steve pressed on, his voice cutting through the tension like steel. You want to know what's dramatic, Joy? Dramatic is ambushing a guest on your own show. Dramatic is attacking someone's personal life to discredit their professional work. Dramatic is sitting behind that desk acting like judge and jury, deciding who is worthy of basic human decency. Her hands trembled slightly now, betraying the anger she tried to mask. Your job. Steve scoffed coldly. Joy, I've been in this business for over 30 years. I know what professionalism looks like. I know what a proper interview looks like. And this is not it. Whoopi stepped in one final time, trying to mediate the situation. Steve, maybe we can just start over. Steve lifted a hand to stop her, his gaze unwavering. Whoopi, I respect you. I respect Sarah. I respect Sunny. You ladies are professionals. But I will not sit here and be disrespected by someone who thinks humiliating people is entertainment. Joy rose again, her face flushed with a mix of frustration and indignation. Nobody's humiliating you. You're just being overly sensitive. Overly sensitive. Steve's voice surged, bordering on a roar. Joy, you spent 20 minutes attacking my character, my marriages, my career, and my past. And when I defend myself, I'm overly sensitive. Are you even hearing yourself? I asked you legitimate questions, Joy shouted. No, you did not. Steve snapped, his composure barely contained. A legitimate question would be something like, Steve, how do your past experiences shape your current advice on relationships? What you asked was, isn't it hypocritical for someone who's been married 3 times to give relationship advice? That's not a question. It's an attack. Joy's mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water. For the first time, she seemed genuinely unsettled. Steve's voice intensified, laced with righteous indignation. A proper question would be, how has your comedy evolved over the years? What you asked instead was, your old material is dated and suggests you may not be the right person to give women advice. That isn't journalism, Joy. That's a hit job. Joy finally regained some control over her voice. I was holding you accountable. Accountable for what? Steve demanded, leaning forward, his eyes sharp and unrelenting. For criticizing people instead of asking real questions, for turning an interview about relationships into a public spectacle. That's not accountability, that's humiliation disguised as tough journalism. The studio remained tense, the audience leaning forward, silent but captivated. Steve's hands were clenched at his sides as he continued, his voice measured but carrying an undeniable force. Accountability is important, yes, but accountability is asking the right questions, not weaponizing personal history to make someone look small in front of millions. That's not holding someone responsible. That's tearing someone down. Joy's posture stiffened, her defiance visible, but her earlier certainty had diminished. Steve's words had cut through the performance she'd been projecting. You want to know what integrity looks like in an interview? He continued, pacing slightly. It's about respect. It's about professionalism. It's about addressing the work, the achievements, the lessons learned, not dredging up every mistake you can twist into a personal insult. He turned back toward her, his eyes intense. I've built a life and a career from nothing. I've helped families, supported communities, mentored young talent. And yet, instead of discussing any of that, you attacked me for decades, old jokes, past marriages, and anything else you could throw at me. That's not journalism. That's character assassination, and I will not stand for it. Joy's hands shook slightly as she tried to respond, but Steve pressed on unwavering. This isn't about sensitivity, Joy. This is about being treated like a human being. You can't sit there and claim accountability while using personal attacks as your method. You don't earn respect by humiliating people. You earn it by asking honest, thoughtful questions and listening to the answers. That's what real interviews look like. The audience sat in stunned silence, the tension so thick it could almost be felt. Steve's voice softened slightly but remained firm, almost commanding. You have to understand something, Joy. Respect is not optional. It's not something you grant or withhold based on your personal opinion of someone. It's the foundation of professionalism. And you just told me, in front of millions, that I don't deserve even basic human respect. That's what this entire exchange has been about. Joy's defiance faltered as she realized the magnitude of what had transpired. Steve's calm yet powerful words had shifted the dynamic entirely, turning what she intended as an ambush into a lesson on boundaries, respect, and the difference between critique and cruelty. He let the words hang in the air, the studio silent, the audience captivated, as the full weight of the confrontation settled in. Steve's voice, steady and deliberate, finally cut through the silence. You just told me, in front of everyone, that respect isn't owed to me as a human being. Remember that? Remember how this looks, and remember that professionalism, accountability, and integrity are far more than just words. They're actions and they're non-negotiable. The room remained eerily quiet, every eye on Steve, his presence commanding, his words resonating with authority and conviction. The tension lingered, but it was clear who had taken control of the narrative. He had turned the chaos into a lesson, exposing the difference between attack and accountability, between spectacle and respect, and between performance and principle, for growing as a person, for learning from my mistakes, for building a successful career and a happy marriage, for helping millions through my work. What exactly am I supposed to be accountable for? Steve's voice was steady but edged with frustration. Joy's face had turned a bright, angry red, a mixture of embarrassment and fury. For your past comments, for your prior marriages, for profiting from relationship advice. She spat, her words sharp and defensive. Steve pointed at her triumphant. And there it is, he said, his tone cutting. You just admitted it. You're not holding me accountable for any real wrongdoing. You're holding me accountable for living my life, for having a past, for making mistakes and learning from them. The studio fell completely silent, the tension so thick it felt tangible. Even the camera operator seemed frozen mid-motion. Steve turned toward the other co-hosts, his expression serious but measured. Ladies, I want to apologize, to you and to your viewers, for what this segment has become. I came here in good faith to talk about something I'm deeply passionate about: helping people build stronger. I never expected to be ambushed like this. Don't apologize for me, Joy interjected sharply. Steve whirled back toward her, his voice firm. I am not apologizing for you, Joy. I'm apologizing to everyone else who had to witness this unprofessional behavior. He took a breath and continued, his words deliberate, cutting through the tension. You want to know what real accountability looks like? It looks like admitting when you're wrong. It looks like treating people with respect, even when you disagree. It looks like asking challenging questions without resorting to personal attacks. Joy's voice rose, shrill and defensive. I don't need lessons from you on how to do my job. Steve's gaze locked on her. Clearly you do. Because what happened here today was not journalism. It wasn't entertaining, and it certainly wasn't professional. It was mean-spirited and ugly. How dare you? Joy screamed. How dare I what? Steve demanded, his voice unwavering. How dare I defend myself? How dare I call out your behavior? How dare I refuse to be your punching bag? Which of those things bothers you the most? Joy's chest heaved, her breathing quickened, almost hyperventilating. You're trying to make me look bad. Steve stared at her, incredulous. Joy, I don't have to make you look bad. You're doing that all on your own. Every word you speak makes you look worse. Every insult, every unprofessional comment is revealing to the audience exactly who you are. I know who I am, Joy shrieked. Steve's voice dropped, quiet yet cutting. Do you? Because from where I'm standing, you look like someone who gets satisfaction from hurting others. You act as though cruelty makes you strong, as though forgetting that there's a human being on the other side of your attacks is acceptable. A tears welled up in Joy's eyes, a mixture of anger and frustration. I am not cruel, she shouted. Then prove it. Steve challenged. Apologize. Show the audience that you can recognize when you've gone too far. Show them that beneath the anger, there's still decency. The studio was deathly silent, every eye on Joy, waiting to see her next move. For a brief moment it seemed she might step back, show humility, admit fault. Instead, she crossed her arms defiantly. I have nothing to apologize for. Steve nodded slowly, his expression calm yet resolute. And there it is, ladies and gentlemen. Joy Behar, a person who treats basic human decency as optional, professional courtesy as a suggestion, and being right is more important than being kind. Get out. What? Joy screamed. Just get out. Steve's first smile since the start of the interview appeared, but it was not pleasant. Gladly. But before I leave, one last thing. You've spent the past 30 minutes trying to tear me down, trying to humiliate me, trying to make me look bad, and all you've done is reveal to everyone exactly who you really are. I feel sorry for you. I don't want your pity. Joy yelled. Steve paused, turning back one final time. It's not petty, Joy, it's compassion. Because someone who needs to hurt others to feel good about themselves is someone who is hurting inside. I hope you get the help you need. With that, Steve Harvey walked off the set, leaving behind a stunned audience, shocked co-hosts, and Joy Behar standing alone at the table, trembling with fury and humiliation. The cameras continued rolling, capturing every second of the aftermath. What was once meant to be a discussion about relationships had become a complete confrontation broadcast live for millions to see. It wasn't just a heated interview. It was a public spectacle that exposed the personalities and approaches of both Steve Harvey and Joy Behar in raw, unfiltered form. The silence that followed Steve's departure was deafening. Joy's chest heaved, her face still red, as it became clear that in trying to diminish her guest, she had instead revealed a side of herself that could never be taken back. The audience, wide-eyed, realized they had witnessed more than a debate. They had seen a lesson in composure, accountability, and integrity played out live. Steve had left the set standing tall, unbroken, and resolute. Joy remained behind, the consequences of her actions laid bare in front of the world. What had started as a conversation about helping couples communicate better ended as a stark demonstration of the difference between attacking someone and addressing real issues with respect, between spectacle and professionalism, between ego and decency. It was a moment that would linger in the memories of everyone watching, a reminder that how you handle conflict and criticism can define your character more than your words ever could. Steve Harvey had made his point unmistakably clear, leaving Joy Behar and the viewers to confront the reality of actions, accountability, and the human side of public discourse.